So, addicted to light? Yes, well I am addicted to it. I can't walk in anywhere, I can't be anywhere without analysing it. Right, I'm going to start off a long time ago. This is a picture I took in, wait for it, 1954. And it was with my very first camera. This is in Switzerland. It was on a cable car. It was a school trip. It was the first time I'd ever flown, first time I'd ever been abroad, first time I'd ever really been away from home, I think. My father gave me a camera, and I took this amongst others. That was the camera. It has no adjustable iris, no shutter speed. It was literally a box camera in another format. And because of this camera and that trip, I won this award. I know education is so important today, and I don't undervalue it at all, but that is the only qualification I've ever had in life, and it's the reason I'm standing here today. So if you don't have a formal academic education, don't worry if you want to be a professional photographer. I was a television cameraman. This is not actually operating a camera. I was 15 by now. I'd left school at 15 with no qualifications. I worked for ATV, which was run by Lou Grade, and I was very proud to work for that man. I posed on a camera. I also used in my own time, when I went into the camera department, I got to use film. And this is me with a 16mm Bolex film camera at a wedding. I've also got a Pentax 35mm camera around my neck. Neither of these cameras have built-in light meters, of course. You had to use an exposure meter and work out the exposure or guess. And after a while, your experience taught you what to guess. It was as simple as that. I eventually became a proper cameraman, and this is on a production with the greatest television camera ever, ME 2001. And this is on what is now, and has been for many years, the EastEnders backlot. I also did lots of game shows. Family Fortunes is still going out, but this was in the days, this was a colour camera, this obviously. And we recently had these modern cameras with the stick-out lenses, they were Philips, was that I did this show. And the Americans insisted on better picture quality, even though 525 lines is awful. That's what they wanted, and those cameras produced better. So I worked on the Muppet Show, and amongst others. This was a couple of years ago. I regularly go to Japan, and I shoot a ballet. This was shooting Sleeping Beauty in a theatre. I'm just one of 4 cameramen, but I would say, the main cameraman, and it's great fun to do. I thoroughly enjoy shooting ballet. It's a very difficult thing to shoot. After camera work, I became a lighting director, and because I was the junior lighting director, I was given all the children's programs. They're the bottom end of the pile, basically. And there was never any budget. So I was told, what can you do? This was a sketch show called Your Mother Wouldn't Like It. This was a song, and it was done to a recorded track, so there was no live sound. So I did all this with the lighting, and then on a cue at the beginning, after the intro, all these lights went up. And it was quite effective. And that show went on to win a BAFTA for Best Children's Programme. So I probably had a part in that. I also did massive shows like The Price is Right. I don't know if it's still going out, but it used more lights than I've ever used on anything. I was using about 250 lights on this production. And it was going in and out of the studio every week. I also did theatre lighting. This is a Japanese friend of mine, Kazuka Hoki, who has an act called the Frank Chickens. And this is at the Edinburgh Festival. I flew up there and lit the production there in the assembly halls. Now we're moving on to lighting itself. This is classic three-point lighting. It's what all lighting is about. And if you see, the girl is key-lit, and under her chin is a shadow. And if you trace that shadow line back from the shadow just above the little monitor, it goes to a light right up the top of the screen. It's very simple. Fundamental three-point lighting is a key light, a fill light, and a backlight to separate from the background. Now we've gone back 560 years. Or 550 years. This was painted by Botticelli in 1460, and it's exactly the same lighting. So all I've done is reproduce something that's 500 years old. Raphael, we've moved on only 50 years or so. Same thing, lights coming from top left, the shadow is under the chin. Rembrandt, the master of lighting, really. He was far more theatrical. He took the key light higher, and he took it further round to the right. If you think in terms of lighting as 12 o'clock is in front of you, 6 o'clock is behind you, I think that's probably about, it's got to be at least 9 o'clock, whereas normally you'd have it at about 7 or 8 o'clock as a key light. He was the real master. Michael Faraday, who discovered electricity, and this was in 1857, so it's really very rudimentary photography. It's still being done with daylight, but effectively the same lighting. Yes, I know the contrast has changed, but it's only the contrast. The lighting is the same. This is the sort of lighting you could find yourself in as a travel photographer very easily, and do. Joan Collins in 1951, same lighting, photographed by Cornel Lucas, but it's the same lighting as Faraday, Rembrandt, Raphael. We've all done the same thing. Harold Macmillan, when Prime Minister, in his office, this was by Arnold Newman. This was in 1954, which incidentally happens to be the same year I took my pictures first. He was allowed into, I'm just guessing, he was allowed into this room, set up, Prime Minister will walk in, stand there, you've got 5 minutes, and you're out. But effectively it's the same, it's three-point lighting. And this is one of mine, done in a studio in North London. Exactly the same lighting, I've just mimicked. Now, what has this got to do with travel? Well, quite a lot, actually, because you'll find yourself in these situations. This is what I do now, I take travel pictures. This is in Kyoto. I now use Nikon D300. I'm waiting for the D800 to come out because I want to shoot movies as well.